Alright, this video is going to be controversial to say the least. I'm not even sure if I'm going to release it, but I really hate being censored, so yeah, I probably will. Free speech is dying, but I think it's of the utmost importance. So today, I'm going to talk about the social justice warrior movement, LBGTQ, whatever letters I'm missing, that's like half the alphabet at this point, and ideologies in general, and just kind of show how ridiculous they can be. The purpose of this video is not to attack or promote hate towards anyone or any group of people. As an INTJ, I hate everybody equally. When my plans of world domination come into fruition, only those on my Discord server will be spared. So go ahead and check down in the description below if you want to join my server before it's too late. Though I stated my claim that I'm not here to promote hate, I'm sure people are going to hear what they choose to hear and are going to be ridiculous anyways. So it doesn't really matter. As an INTJ, as it is for most INTJs, independence is very important to me, and I do not like being censored, and I have a hard time biting my tongue and being censored. Push your cancel culture if you must. At this point, I have 333 subscribers, so I don't have much to lose. But if you do like what I say, please consider subscribing and liking and sharing this content. I'd really appreciate it. Throughout my life, I've been a pariah and outcasted, as many transgendered people are, so I'm sure they can relate on that aspect. So if I am canceled or whatever, I guess nothing's really changed in my life. While there's a lot of people out there arguing over the Second Amendment, and for good reason, the First Amendment is slipping right between our fingers. It's intentional? I don't know. Maybe some crazy conspiracies going on to distract us, but probably not. I think the internet is probably the biggest double-edged sword in the history of humanity. Some guy like me can come down here and just speak his mind, but there's also people who are lost and they find a tribe and they're vehemently irrational and they promote hate and resentment themselves. But ironically, they're against people promoting hate and resentment towards a marginalized group. Really just want to shine a light on these distorted thoughts and ideologies. But before I get into the meat and potatoes of this video, let me share a quote. Every form of addiction is bad, whether the narcotic be alcohol, morphine, or idealism. Carl Gustav Jung. Okay, let's look at social justice warriors, or as I dub them, social terrorists. Maybe their intentions are good, but the outcome really isn't. It seems they defend gays, transgendered, and anybody else who falls in those cracks, but pretty much demean everybody else in the process. While these are obviously marginalized groups of people who've had a lot of hate towards them and oppression and violence, which is completely wrong, I truly do feel for them as much as my icy INTJ heart allows me to, at least. I truly do think all people should be treated equal, or equally as possible. I think if typology shows us anything, that we can't really all be treated equal. I mean, we need equal opportunities, but I don't think I'd really be appreciated, treated equal as an ESFP, in the sense of like my needs are not being met. Why do I claim social justice warriors are social terrorists? Because they marginalize the majority in order to protect a minority. In case you haven't noticed, things are pretty tense, especially here in the United States. I personally acknowledge two genders, male and female. There are two genitalia and various sexual organs associated with those genitalia that encompass two genders, male and female. I don't have an issue with a male feeling or claiming to be a male, or a woman feel as they are a man. What I have an issue with is you can't change your gender as if it was a pair of underwear. You cannot take a box of Scrabble, throw it against the wall, pick up a few random pieces, and claim that's your pronoun to some imaginary gender you just made up. It just doesn't work that way. That is delusional thinking. Up until recently, mental health professionals were trained not to give into the delusions of their patients and clients. This is dangerous. In my background, I've worked several fields that are similar where I encountered transgendered people. The first setting was in prison. There's always a group of transgendered people in prison. While most of them were pretty harmless, they were there for drugs or prostitution, various things like that. There were a few monsters among them. One instance I could really think of was I was contracted to work a Hawaiian prison, or Hawaiian inmates, I should say, in Arizona, so it was out of state contract. And there was this one transgendered woman who took a hammer, killed his boyfriend, put him in the trunk of his car, and left them there for 2 weeks. He, or she, I'm getting that confused, sorry. She also raped fully grown men who were her cellmates regularly. I don't know why they didn't put them in isolation, but they didn't. And this was before the whole social justice thing really took off. These are fully grown men, too. Keep that in mind. Again, any more reality is subjective, so you're going to take this as you will, but I'm not promoting hate or violence or any sort of discrimination towards anybody. These are simply my thoughts and opinions, and I would like you to put your thoughts and opinions down below in the comments, even if they differ from mine. Another job I encountered transgendered people was a case manager for a behavioral health organization for kids. He, meaning a female transitioning to a male, was in the closet, if that's the correct term to use. And speaking of stupid ideologies, his family was Mormon. And they weren't really accepting of his beliefs, his thoughts, his feelings. And I really felt bad for the kid. I did everything I could. I talked to his therapist regularly, but we were kind of at a loss what we can do besides just wait till he turns 18 to kind of live his own life or come out to his family. His kid had really bad hygiene, and she was depressed and anxious. The next setting is in a behavioral health hospital. Both adult and kids, transgendered people came in fairly regularly. In the kids unit, pretty much a transgendered person would come in, and by the end of the week, half the unit was transgender all of a sudden. So it just kind of spreads that way. One instance, this boy, meaning a female transitioning to a male, about 16, 17 years old, raped a 10-year-old biological female. Now, I'm here at a drug rehab facility, and the madness continues. We house transitioning females with biological females, and a few months ago, a biological woman was raped. And still, we practice housing transitioning women with biological women. A recurring theme I see with transgender people is a history of extensive trauma, namely sexual trauma. I'm sure there's transgender people out there without trauma or sexual trauma, but I highly doubt I haven't met one yet. And again, I'm not saying all transgender people are evil monsters. 98% of them I met seem like decent folk, even just people on the street. But there are some out there, and people are exploiting this. Going back to the behavioral health hospital I worked at, there was this one guy who believed he was the son of God. Maybe several hundred or even several thousand years ago, this guy would have had a huge cult following, kind of like one delusional guy named Jesus. But now, if somebody claims to be the son of God, we hospitalize them and shove antipsychotics down their throat. Put that in perspective. Clearly, this guy was delusional, right? You say he's psychotic, claiming to be the Messiah, but he was greatly offended when you called him by his birth name. You had to refer to him as Josiah, the Son of God, or he got quite upset. So we don't give in to his delusions, but we'll give in to the delusions of people with gender dysphoria. And you may be thinking I'm comparing apples to oranges here, but they're both fruit, right? People who go against or don't follow the belief system of social justice warriors are being canceled or even mobbed. Just because somebody has a different opinion than you doesn't give you the right to ruin people's lives or even commit violence or coercion. Because this is just a belief system, and a key word here is belief. There's a strange belief, again, this belief word out there, that there's no biological difference between men and women. This has to be the stupidest argument I've heard yet. How do you ignore something this obvious? Why I don't think science is the end-all, be-all authority to our life and existence. It does have its place. Obviously, biological difference between men and women, male and female, is biology 101. And people who deny this are not being very rational or scientifically or mentally sound. You can look at transgender women going into women's sports these days. You can see a man in drag who couldn't cut it in men's MMA go into women's MMA and beat the living shit out of biological women. I think they finally passed a law against this, so at least the government's doing something about these terrorists. Luckily, people are getting sick of all this shit. Look at the Bud Light controversy with the transgender spokesperson, Dylan, something or another. I haven't really read too deeply into it. It's only rednecks really that are standing up to it, but at least somebody has the balls to do it. I mean, there has to be an abundance of balls, right, with all these gender transition surgeries going on. They have to put them somewhere, right? And we can't have a sense of humor anymore. Everything is regulated and censored. Anything can be funny in the right light. To sum things up, I'm sure people out there are going to accuse me of being transphobic, homophobic, Islamophobic, insert whatever phobic here, because people are going to distort reality to their liking. And I'm not promoting hate, violence, or any ill will towards anybody. I am stating my opinion, my personal opinion. You cannot marginalize a group, force your ideology down our throats, and expect people to take it lying down. You're creating hate and resentment, and people are going to bite back eventually. Thank you for watching. Consider liking, sharing, and subscribing if you're still with me. Thank you.